before we get to problem 2 that determine should we buy or should we rent the formwork system for our job. We first discuss the material cost for this temporary structure. If we buy a formwork at the amount we call PF, and then at certain times of use, the service value is SN. How we can determine the costs for one use? And that a function of other factors that listed in here. So that the material cost for one use we call CF, and it equal to this equation. And with that equation, it related to you the factor that we learned in engineering economics in project planning. So how it work? You see the PF purchase cost, and we pay say A over P I percent N. So N is the useful life, and that useful life is determined by N over NY, and is the overall number of uses before disposal, before that no longer used for that formwork. NY the annual number of uses, how many times you use that formwork per year on average. That ratio of N over NY determines the number of years that we use for the formwork. And with that one, we can have the first component here. What does that mean? The purchase cost at single amount at present value with distributed uniform amount, so given P5A in N years. So that basically the annual cost for the formwork, annual cost, uniform annual cost. And similarly, the service value, that is something in the future at year end. We distribute it back for the last N years. So that is given F5A, I percent N. So that is the equivalent annual amount of the service value that you receive at year end. And when you subtract that, you can get the cost, annualized costs of this formwork. And then we divide by the NY, the annual number of uses, then we can get the material cost for one use. So that's why we have that equation. And I stand for annual interest rate, something we learned in project planning. And if the overall number of uses is less than the annual number of uses, what does that mean? It means that because we use a lot in 1 year, so before that year it's already no longer be able to use that N less than NY, then we assume the within 1 year the interest rate have some below the time value, but it's not so much. So in this case, we make life easier, ignore the interest in within a year. So that one it become just PF minus SN divided by the number of use. So this is the purchase cost, service value, that is basically the actual amount you put out in that year, divided by the number of uses, overall number of uses, so you can be able to get the material cost for one use. That explains why we have this kind of equation. And let's apply this in problem 2. Problem 2, a construction company considers the purchase of a set of flying table forms to be used 100 times, so that is N capital, on a new project at a rate of 10 times per month. Further reuse of the form on the another project is uncertain, and thus the entire cost for the forms is to be charged to the current project. The form cost, if we purchase, $23 per square foot. Another option is to rent the forms for 90 cents per square foot per month. A, should the company buy or rent the forms? And B, for the condition described above, what is the number of uses for which the purchase and the rental cost become even? It means either rent or purchase will be the same economic values. So with that one, number of uses. So let's go back to review the equation to determine the material cost. So for one use, the CF equal to PF, the purchase costs. Conversion given P5A, so A over P, I percent N.
minus the service values, and that is in future. So A over F, I percent N, divided by N sub Y. And different factor parameter given. CF material cost for one use. PF for purchase cost of the formwork. And the overall number of uses before disposal. And Y, the annual number of uses. Annual. So as you can see, you can buy the form can use multiple uses. And Y is for 1 year, and if for overall number of uses before disposal. So can be several years. And it's useful life, and of course with that we can the ratio of N over NY. And then the service values as N, that you know that in engineering economics or project planning, annual interest rate I, and that yes, we need to use our knowledge in the part 2 of your project planning class for this one. And then if N less than NY, it means that the overall number of uses less than the annual number of uses. What does that mean is we use this form in 1 year only, less than 1 year. So we can be approximate, ignore the capital cost. We see the interest assume 0. Then the CF equals approximate equal to PF minus SN over N. So let's apply to here. As you can see from this problem, we can have N equal to 110 times, and you can see. And from that, we can also find out NY, the annual number of uses. They say 100 times per month, and you have 12 months per year, so you have 10 times per month at the problem given, and we have 1 year is 12 months. So you have that one is 120 uses. So what does that mean? We have N less than NY. So when N less than 1 NY, we can use that equation here instead of assuming no interest. So CF equal to PF minus SN over N. The problem don't give us the service value, so we just be able to get that one. We can have the CF instead apply the long equation here, but when N less than NY, we can apply the short equation. It equal to per square feet. So we have Sn equal to 0, and then you can see, so we can write down PF minus Sn equal to N, and plug in purchase 23 per square foot minus 0. The problem don't give us anything. N is 110 uses, overall uses. So we have that equal to 0.21. So 21 cents per square foot for 1 use. For 1 use, because that is CF is the material cost for 1 use. So that is per use. So that is if you buy, if you purchase. If rented, what should be the cost for 1 use? So if rented, another options at the problem give us, then how many months we need? We use 110 times, and the rate is 10 times per month. So we can have the month that you need to be rent equal to 110 times divided by 10 times per month time 10 times per month. So from that elimination, you can get that equal to 11 months. So we need to rent for 11 months. And the cost given for the rent is 0.90 cents per square foot per month. We have 11 months. So what should be? So we can have, let's assume that it's the CF1 for the option of the purchase. And the second option is CF2, the cost for one use if rented. I got CF2, so it equal to, for 1 month it will be 0.90 cent per square foot per month. And we have to rent for 11 months. And that for 110 uses, we have to divide by 110 times to get per use for 1 square foot. So from that one, we have 0.09, so basically 9 cents per square foot per one use. So as you can see now, it's the same unit, so we can compare. So if you purchase 21 cents per square foot per one use, if you rent 9 cents per square foot per one use, so of course rent is better. So you can see that we have CF1, which is the cost if we purchase, greater than CF2, the unit cost if we rent. So from that one we need to rent, and that should be the answer, rent for A scenarios. So that is A.